Here's fan favorite Kenny Wallace's take on what happened and what led to the decision NASCAR made and who was responsible for that decision.
Parker Kligerman, he got screwed, blued, and tattooed. I feel so bad for him. Here's the controversy. It's human. It's the human. NASCAR decides when to push that button. It's a human up there. The human decides when to push the button. So they push the button 2 feet before Parker Kligerman gets there, and it's just a and that's all there is to it.
And you know what, Brandon? I think that's the most frustrating part of this whole situation for me. It's a human situation. It's not like you can say, well, a computer dictates when there's an obstacle on the track or a situation on the racetrack that makes green flag racing unsafe. The human being in the control room waited until the literal last possible moment, as you can see on the screen right here. This was the moment the caution came out. You can see Parker Kligerman literally, I don't even know if that's feet away, Brandon. That might be inches away from taking the white flag. The flagman obviously has the white flag in his hand, doesn't have the yellow flag in his hand yet because the caution light has just come on now. And that is what costs Parker Kligerman what would have been his first ever Xfinity Series win. Brandon, I'll just let you have the floor here. What are your thoughts on how this Xfinity race finished out, and what are your feelings regarding Parker Kligerman and an absolute heart-wrenching loss at the Charlotte ROVAL?
Well, I hope I can give you a speech. I'm flattered. But Kligerman literally going to the L there on the Charlotte wall, I guess that was a little fitting because he was given the L by the man who hits the button. But I told you backstage, Kenny Wallace there, his opinion, it's pretty spot on. Although I would prefer he would have had the coffee mug as his per usual Kenny conversations. But yeah, Parker Kligerman, no question, was robbed of a race win. And it was just egregious to see just how close he got there before the yellow came out. And from the naked eye, the crew at the 48 camp thought he had the win. Even the flagman thought he had the win. He had the white out the whole time for one lap to go. But here's the facts. Leland Honeyman was over there under a bunch of tires and basically in a cave. I mean, completely unsafe for cars to go by that. So, yes, the caution is going to have to come out at some point. And the man who presses the button, I wish I had an inside tour because we've had so many instances like this, Ben, where it's been so much determined by the human that is pressing the button. We might need one of these Tesla Optimus fellas to come out here and do this job. Maybe they would be a little more neutral. But I still think the NASCAR officials are trying to be as neutral as they can. I'm not a tinfoil conspiracy theorist. I don't think they're playing favorites or any of this jazz that you see around Reddit and things like that. But dadgummit, it sucks. I mean, for Parker Kligerman, like, so close. And I hate to say it, but like this, I mean, for looking at like a selfishness for, on Parker Kligerman's standpoint, announcing he's not going to be full-time racing next year, this really was his last chance to get a win while he's still in full-time competition anyway. He certainly could come out on a one-off and grab a victory, but this was his one chance to take the win. And Adam, joining us there, Parker Kligerman deserved to win the Charlotte ROVAL on Saturday, absolutely. And I don't think there was any favoritisms towards JRM. I don't think there was any, bad opinions towards Parker Kligerman. It happened the way it did. And this is we're not surprised though, is the big thing, where you can add this to a long list of other instances where the circumstances of a race or someone's win was just changed in a matter of moments. But really, I'd say it's got to be one of the closest ones we've had.
Yeah, well, there's definitely, I mean, let's get that tinfoil crap out of here right now. We're not saying that there's any favoritism towards Junior Motorsports or Hendrick Motorsports. If there were, we wouldn't have seen Alex Bowman disqualified and thus eliminated from the playoffs in yesterday's race. So nobody here is saying that. What we are saying is that as Kenny Wallace said, a human being, again, it's not scripted, it's not rigged, there's no favoritism, but a human being literally has the power to change the outcome of the race, dictate who wins and loses the race, or who at least has a better or worse chance of winning or losing a race whenever that human being decides to flip that caution switch or whatever. And Brandon, you were exactly right. Leland Honeyman, the car was engulfed. I mean, it was underneath the tires. I mean, I don't know how he climbed out of that thing. Like there was no way you could say, because at least with Ryan Preece at Indianapolis, you could say, well, maybe let's see, maybe let's give him a minute to see if he can fire back up and drive away, or maybe you could argue that there was no argument here. That car was not going to go anywhere.
And isn't it funny how it works that way, Ben? Either it's a self-spin that's like little sissy self-spin that throws out the yellow, or it's something that's just so comically just bad that happens like that, like Leland Honeyman, for instance, just so comical. I mean, the dude is under the tire barrier completely. Looked a lot like the turn that Mike Bagley had at Chicago, or he's had the past couple of years. Sure, yeah. I believe it was Noah Gragson that was like, yeah, he's not coming out of that.
Yep. Spinning the tires and everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And forgive me, because I'm going to get on the playoff soapbox again here for just a moment. But this is part of why I don't like this system, and I think this sport is too chaotic for this. Because what other sport? People say, name me a sport that doesn't have some sort of a playoff, right? Why shouldn't we have a playoff? Can you name me a sport where a guy running, with no disrespect to Leland Honeyman, where did he end up here? 28. Guy finishes 28th. I assume he was running a little bit higher than that before the accident. But somebody who's not a part of the playoff conversation, somebody who may have been having a decent run given the equipment that he's in, but whatever the case may be, or somebody who's a complete back marker, who's just doing the best with what they can, or whatever. They're all out there. They all have stories to tell too, and they all have races to run to. And something completely unrelated to the playoff picture or who's winning or losing this race, it changes the complexion of the playoff battle, right? So Parker Kligerman's going to win this race. He's put in the drive of his life. The one car has had some transmission issues coming onto NASCAR 1 and 2, as it were. Seems like Parker's got it in the bag if he can just get to the white flag. And even if the race goes green, probably is set to win this race and advance to the round of 8, right? Sam Mayer's going to be out. Leland Honeyman, however, has this incident. And again, like to your point, Brandon, there was no way he was coming out of those tires. So it was bad enough when we initially thought, oh, they didn't want to go to overtime. They let Parker cross the start finish line and held the white flag for him, right? It was like Kyle Larson at Indianapolis all over again, right? They held the white flag to let this driver win the race. Again, not saying there's favoritism or anything, but it happened to benefit that driver who was in the lead of a time. But then it gets even worse because you realize they did put the caution light on. I mean, I don't know if you could try to make it closer. I mean, we have to keep showing this image because
I'm going to need to NBC it, Ben.
Yeah. You got to blow it up. You got to NBC it. That's exactly right. It's an unbelievable reminder of just how close it was. And keep in mind, how quickly Parker's coming, even though it's not like he's on the oval, he's still accelerating off of that corner. I mean, that is a matter of microseconds. And it's just, I don't know. I struggle to come up with the words for how ridiculous it is that we have to come on here once again in a time of the year where we should be talking about, whatever this system wants us to talk about, right? Like underdog stories making it to the round of 8, or who's your championship favorite now. And we'll get into what the playoff picture looks like here in just a moment. Sam Mayer coming off of a disqualification last week and looking like he had to go out and win. And he does that and he beats, look who was second and third, 2 of the best road course racers in the series, right? Maybe the 2 best. I feel bad for Sam Mayer. Like this is a big story for him. But everybody's talking about race control and whoever was up there in that tower. And like I said, because I posted some videos on Saturday night because I was like, I can't wait 48 hours to give my initial thoughts here because this is too important. But this is part of the reason why I feel like people continue to look at this sport and it's difficult sometimes to take it seriously. And I don't know what, I mean, there's obviously a lot going on in this sport right now that, it has business implications that are way over my head, or, stuff, information that obviously you or I aren't, privy to or anything like that. We don't know what's going to happen with Front Row and 2311, but I don't know, man. There's a part of me that feels like if we can't even trust the sanctioning body to press a button, like, how can we trust them with anything else in this sport? Like, this is just, it seems like such an easy call to make. And then you see this tweet from Bob Pockrass, and he says, asked NASCAR about the delay in the caution, and apparently that area where Honeyman was underneath the tires is difficult to see from the tower, and that is partly what delayed them throwing the caution. I don't know. Are they not watching the CW like we are? Do they not have access
it's
to
on
that
a tape delay. If you're actually there in person IRL, it most likely is on a tape delay, because you can't see live footage on the CW when you're actually there live.
I don't know. Well, but then I feel like the tower should have cameras around the track. Like, maybe they don't have the
real-time
CW
footage,
feed, but they should have as close to real-time footage as you can get. I mean, it's 2024, for crying out loud. I would think the technology exists. But even if it didn't, I feel like he was there long enough. I mean, we heard the 48 radio, get to the white, get to the white, get to the white. Like, they knew that there was a car in there. And the timing, borrow a phrase from RCR, the timing of this could not have been worse, right? Literally could not have been worse timing on when the caution came out. And I'm sick to my stomach for Parker Kligerman, like you mentioned, Brandon, because again, I'm not going to say he can't go out and win one of these round of 8 races or even the championship 4, because Parker's a good driver and he's got a good team with him that's going to fight like hell for the next 4 weeks. But you're right. This did feel like his last best chance to get an Xfinity Series win, at least as a full-time driver. And, I mean, boy, would he have earned it. My goodness, would he have earned it. I mean, I know colleague kind of messed up SVG's strategy, and Van Gisbergen was left out there on old tires. I know Sam Mayer, had that transmission issue, but it looked like when his car was firing off of turn 7, as it should, he had a faster car, and you saw it on the overtime restart. He had the best car at the end. AJ Allmendinger up there as well, a guy who literally had never lost this race. When AJ Allmendinger was in the Charlotte ROVAL Xfinity race, he was 4 for 4. He had never lost this race. He was ahead of Allmendinger. He was ahead of Mayer, who was driving a better handling, faster car. He was ahead of Van Gisbergen, who's been unstoppable on these road courses in this series this year. I mean, this was going to be one of the most well-earned, well-respected victories in recent history, certainly in this series. I think in all of NASCAR, you can say that. And I don't know. I saw this conversation. My friend Luis Torres was going back and forth with somebody else as well, saying we're going to remember this drive. And somebody else was saying nobody ever remembers who finishes second. And that's the tragic part of this. And I think there are exceptions to it. I think, everybody I think remembers who finished second at the Daytona 500 in 2007, right? Like, everybody knows that's part of Mark Martin's story. I think a lot of fans still remember, when Matt DiBenedetto finished second at Bristol to Denny Hamlin in the Bristol Night Race all those years ago in the 95 Levine family racing car.
I was at that one.
Yeah, there you go.
Somehow, yeah.
Yep. And again, I think, this is going to be part of Parker's legacy. Nobody can take the drive away from him. He would have earned this victory, no doubt about it, no question about it. And it's unfortunate, and he tried his best during the overtime, obviously, but just ultimately didn't have it. It was just too much to ask, and he ends up falling to 6th place. I think he had a tire rub. I think there was a little bit of contact with Mayer. And to Parker's credit, he handled it very well and said it was close to the limit, but it was still all fair. And credit to the junior motorsports team. But it's hard not to watch a race like that, watch a finish like that, and just be sick to your stomach because of who was involved and the situation that led up to that.
Yeah, and I remember in weeks prior, I've been saying this will be Parker Kligerman's best shot when we were talking about him being in the playoff picture, going to the Charlotte ROVAL. This was going to be his best place to get a victory, and he just almost did it. There's really not too much you can say about it. Like, what is your solution to this problem? I mean, besides firing the person? I think we already fired. I think we've already fired them a couple of times this year. So like, what is the solution? What do you do to quote unquote prevent something like this?
You know, Brandon, one of my favorite moments here in my Grid Network career was after the 2022 Fall Texas race, and we were on the air, and we had some tweets come in as we were on the air, and NASCAR came out and basically said, you know, we completely missed the William Byron Denny Hamlin incident, and Denny Hamlin was tweeting about how it played on the screen 5 times, and I was talking about how Big Hoss at Texas Motor Speedway is literally the world record largest TV screen. They literally played it on the largest TV screen on the planet 5 times, and they still missed it. But I don't know, man. Like this totally changed the outcome of the race and the finish of the race. Like if you miss this one, it's just as bad. It might be worse. I don't know. I mean, I have a very hard time, and Brock Beard said this on his streams last night as well. Very hard time buying the excuse in 2024 with all the cameras that we have positioned around the track, all the technology and telemetry that we have in the control room. I have a very hard time believing that you were just completely oblivious to a car being underneath the tire barriers and clearly unable to move. That just I don't know. I just don't buy it.
Like again, what do we do? Is there a higher management that needs to be reordered now, that needs to go?
Oh, I don't know. I miss David Hoots. I mean, how ironic is it that David Hoots was on the Dale Jr. download this past week or whenever? I don't know. I just, again, I hate to go there. I hate to say that, you know, somebody should lose their job, but I mean, it's unacceptable. It's the second highest level of stock car racing in the country, and you have a situation like this where I don't know. It's such. Either you have to throw the caution immediately, or I can't believe we're saying this, but I think the less bad option would have been like, okay, you know, Parker earned this one. Let's just let him get to the white. It's close enough, and let the top 5 all cross the line, and then, or make the excuse like, well, maybe by some miracle, Honeyman was going to be okay, and you know he could have gotten out, or he was far enough underneath the tires that it. I don't know. Just come up with some other excuse, but let the top 5 all cross the line, or let Parker get as close to the crash scene as he possibly can before you throw the yellow. That would have been less bad. I can't say better, but it would have been less bad than literally waiting until he was inches away to flip that button and put the caution light on. We have to provide some comic relief here before we move on. Brandon, I want to thank you for bringing this to my attention here. When life gives you lemons, you have to make lemonade. This was the official highlight reel posted to the Motorsports and NBC YouTube channel, and it ends with Parker Kligerman watching Sam Mayer's burnout, just dejected after getting out of his number 48 car. This is unedited footage from that video. Take a look.
Parker getting out of the car, you can already see just how close he was.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports and NBC YouTube channel.
Almost did a spit take, Ben. I got some good apple cider here. Didn't want to get rid of that. Hey, someone needs to take that footage and those deep fry memes. We need the deep fried. Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. Just like that would be the best.
You know, I know they use the same template for all of those clips and all those videos every time. I mean, just go to any Motorsports on NBC YouTube video. It's the same
every week. Yeah.
The Parker Kligerman telling you to like, comment, and subscribe, as all YouTube channels do. But this one's a little awkward, to say the least. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy whenever you've got a driver analyst. You know, it could have been anyone else. You know, but like imagine Parker getting in a fight at the end of a race and just like bloody on the ground, and then go straight to, hi, I'm Parker Kligerman for more for more action like this on Pit Road. Like, yeah, it's comical.
Did they tape one of these with Marty Schneider? I mean, maybe they should have used one of Marty saying like, hey, subscribe to our channel or something like that.